What up? What up? Hopefully, you guys can hear me and see me. Let me know if you can. Let me know if you cannot hear this music. All right, guys. This was originally going to be a members only live stream, but the more content that I gathered, the more that I realized that this case is completely being overshadowed by the arrest of Rex Heuermann. Now, this story should have been headline news, especially for you Delphi folks. We have all these people of interest, and we have the pastor, right? Pastor Todd or whatever. All these different people of interest, and we're like, hey, you just can't go there. This he's not going to commit a crime 50 years later. When we talk about Richard Allen, we're like, well, why hasn't he committed other crimes? Well, look at this David Zandstra guy. I mean, what's going on with him? He could have committed multiple kidnappings, murders, and things along those lines, and he didn't get busted till he was 80 years old. All right, and this is Gretchen here. So, from my understanding, she was the daughter of a pastor, and it was both of these pastors that were friends, and they were working together. So she trusted him. Thank you, Cindy. She trusted him, but not only did she trust him, she was extremely strong. During his confession, he stated that he told her to undress, and she said, "Hell no, I'm not undressing for you, you freak." And that's why he killed her, because he knew then and there that she would tell on him. Like, you're a damn freak, is what you are. You're no pastor. You're no man of God. You're a freak, is what you are. And I'm going to tell on you. And he wasn't going to have that. And sometimes I wonder if that's why these sickos kill. They can't control themselves. They got themselves all hyped up to commit the act, right? And then as soon as they do it, they're cowards. They're like, "Oh, what have I done? I can't believe that, I did this. Now I got to hide everything," because all they're thinking about is themselves. But this guy apparently moved around Texas, Georgia. Um, yeah, this is going to be another extremely nauseating case, and I think it is being overshadowed by the Lisk being finally put in handcuffs, which is huge news. That's great. But this also is another case that seems more related to a Delphi type situation. We have Richard Allen, who was about 46 at the time of the crime, in his mid 40s, age 50 now. All the experts say there's just no way that this guy hasn't committed a crime before. Well, you got an 80-year-old man here. Who knows how many crimes he's committed and gotten away with? So I had to take this from a members only live stream into the public domain only because I don't feel like this case is getting enough attention. And I think we can gain a lot of insight. Maybe not feel so bad about some of the accusations we made or some of the POIs that we had. Especially when you look at this creep. And we're going to learn a lot about him right now. I know I did, gathering this information. Let's go to the early news clippings, and we'll kind of set the tone for the live stream here. Kind of get an idea of what these folks were going through at this time, especially the family. Now, keep in mind, the father was a pastor and friends with his own daughter's killing. And according to investigators, this son of a bitch went to the funeral, helped with the services. You want to talk about hiding in plain sight? We didn't have Richard Allen showing up, as far as we know. I mean, this is some really cold-blooded shit, guys. And think about all the unsolved murders. Think about the killers who were at the funerals. Think about the killers who were consoling the parents. Yeah, this is a tough one, guys. This is a tough one. Let's go ahead and read this article here. I'll share it with you on the screen here. There's not a whole lot to find. online. Remember, she was only 8 years old when she passed away. This was by Charles H. Walton the third, and he actually spelled it 3D. More than 200 policemen, firemen, and volunteers searched a wide area of Marple Township, Delaware County, PA, yesterday in an effort to find 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington. Gretchen, the daughter of Reverend and Miss Harold B. Harrington of 27 Lawrence Road, was last seen as she left home at 9:20 a.m. Her father is a minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church next to their home. The child was on her way to the last day of a 2-week summer Bible school at the Trinity Chapel of the Christian Reformed Church on a hilltop 2 blocks away. 2 blocks away. Marple detective Fred Blank said a neighbor saw the child as she walked past her home about 5 minutes after Gretchen left for the Bible school. Since then, we haven't been able to find so much as a trace of her, said Police Chief Daniel Hennessy. Gretchen is the second grader at a Delaware County Christian school in Newton Square, the quiet neighborhood of a single homes in the northeast section of Marple Township. Darby Creek runs parallel to Lawrence Road about 50 yards behind the Harrington home. It is the boundary line between Marple and Haverford townships. Chief Hennessy said police, volunteer, firemen, and K-9 units searched both sides of the creek. And fields and wooded areas, a state police helicopter hovered overhead. The Reverend David G. Zandstra, what the freak, of the Christian Reformed Church, 134 Lawrence Road, said he first learned of Gretchen's disappearance from Mr. Harrington. So here's that son of a bitch right here talking to the reporter. Mr. Zantra explained that the first hour of the summer school is conducted in the church. So think about how many investigations where we're talking and we have these POIs and we have these gut hunches and they're right there smack dab in the middle, and a lot of us are like, well, it's just not possible. Well, here you go. It is possible. Mr. Harrington first realized Gretchen was missing when several of her friends came to the front of the manse about 11 a.m. When she checked the classes, he was unable to locate Gretchen. He then phoned Mr. Zandstra, who checked with the teachers. They reported that Gretchen had not been seen. Police were called at 11:29 a.m. Mr. Zandstra said that Gretchen's mother, Enna, just returned from the hospital after giving birth to her fourth daughter. So it's like he knew. He knew that her parents were busy. Damn, what a creep. Father's friend, trusted adult of the child. You guys, we cannot let our children out of our sights. I, I don't care if it's with cousins. I don't care if it's with a long lost uncle. I just don't care. You cannot leave these children alone. I'm sorry. Sucks, but you just can't. I mean, you can, but you can't. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, Copper? Good to see you. Purdue, Melissa GP, Olivia, Danita. Here's an image of the original search here. Yeah, sick fuck for sure, Cindy. One sick bastard. Cold blooded. I mean, imagine this guy killed this young girl and went and helped with the services. I mean, that's a psychopath right there. Definitely, they're running his DNA, and we're about to hear a whole lot of information on this character here. And I do apologize for the members who are expecting a small group. I'm pretty sure we'll still have a small group. This isn't a very popular case, but I do apologize to those members who are hoping for a members only stream. Um, I don't know. I felt we need more eyes on this case here. This case is going to provide a lot of insight into a lot of our doubts as armchair sleuths, right? We got the preacher surrounded by the friend, part of the early media content. A lot of times we see that in regards to the Delphi case and we just disregard it like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, shit, this would have been one hell of a conspiracy theory that wouldn't have been answered for some time, right? So a lot of times we need to, as people, we need to say, hey, maybe the reason that it's gone unsolved for so long is because it is a conspiracy. It is somebody close to the family. It is a friend. It is a trusted person. I mean, think about it. How else was this guy able to get away? It was because he trusted her. Therefore, he was able to convince her to come along with them. Right? You can't do that with a stranger. They might scream or go running off to their parents. So we need to start asking ourselves these questions with these cases that we're trying to find answers to. Why did she go missing? Who was she around? Who were they around at the time? We're not just talking about girls. We got Ray Hainish. He was abused and murdered violently. Um, so, I mean, I really don't know what to make of this. The family trusted them. Think about it. The father was a pastor as well. So that means he was planning, working with this guy while this piece of shit was coveting his daughter. This is a nightmare scenario. Bottom line, complete nightmare. Your daughter's going 2 blocks to Bible camp, guys. And the pastor of the church just murdered her. I want that to sink in. Give that a moment. Radar, of course you won. You always won. You're my favorite. You win. Let's play I win. Hey, what's up, CJK? Yeah, no worries, man. Glad you could be here. Walking to Bible school. Sick. Disgusting. I do not know how to explain this, but she was tough. During the confession, he said, I was doing all this nasty stuff in front of her, and I told her, like, take off your clothes. Like, I'm about to have my way with you. And she was like, hell no. I'm not doing that shit. You're a sick pervert. And then he beat her to death. So I don't care what anybody says. This girl right here is a hero. Extremely smart. She knew she was dealing with evil. She knew it. I'm not going to give in to this evil. I'm just not going to do it. And apparently during the confession, he explained how she refused. She refused his demands, and that's why he literally beat her to death with his hands. A grown man beat an 8-year-old. Now, if that doesn't make your skin crawl, I don't think anything will. Nothing will. Who is the alphabet member? I don't know, but it goes all the way from A to P. Not A to Z, A to P. There's a difference. Okay, so I kind of have a little bit of order here, not much. Here's the guy. I don't know if you guys have seen this image yet. Here's the guy. I think he's 83. Here's the piece of shit right there. Man, he got away with it. But how great is that his last years on this earth are going to be in prison? Thought you were going to get away. Yeah, hopefully he knows what he's facing. Exactly. What the hell? Hey, Colette. I'm doing well. Thanks for joining the stream. This was originally going to be a members live stream, but I was like, man, this information needs to get out there because it reminds me a lot of how I would there would be certain people of interest that kind of come into my view, and then I just kind of disregard them. Yeah, it's just not possible. And no way. But look, here you go. Every horrible conspiracy theory ever imagined in the Delphi case has become real life for this family. Micah, hit the lights. Remember that shit? I'm not saying that, that's what's going on. I'm just saying it's not that outlandish anymore. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not unreasonable. Not anymore. Not for me, it is. Sorry. Let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos and 2 articles, and then we're just going to chill and we're going to talk about this. Here's the missing poster. Let's take a look at that. It says here, did you see this little girl? She was last seen walking along Lawrence Road in the southwesterly direction near this intersection at 9:20 a.m. Yeah, wait till you see how he was caught. It's kind of like a repressed memory type situation. But let's go ahead and get started. It's enough of a rant. Let me try to show him the way that I saw him. This is a good one.
But the big story on Action News tonight is the arrest announced today in the decades-old murder of an 8-year-old girl in Delaware County.
David Zandstra is, ladies and gentlemen, a monster. He is every parent's worst nightmare.
And tonight, David Zandstra, now 83 years old, is finally behind bars. Prosecutors say he abducted and brutally killed Gretchen Harrington back in 1975 as that little girl walked to the Bible camp where he was a pastor. Now, 48.
2007 whistleblower. Hello. I might need to grab some ganja from you. So let me know if you're on deck. Might need to see you. In my opinion, this wasn't his only time he did this, just only time he got caught. Yeah, and he admitted to it. So he may be wanting to get this stuff off his chest.
8 years later, investigators say he's admitted to the crime. They say he lied to cover up for decades. Action News reporter Maggie Kant live in media tonight. Maggie, how did we get here all these years later?
Well, Brian, investigators say it was a new break in the case. Another alleged victim came forward to say she was sexually abused as a child at the hands of David Zandstra. Now, when troopers went down to Georgia to make contact, they say he gave himself up.
This man is
Don?
evil. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew and who trusted him, and then he acted as if he was their family friend.
After 48 years of dogged police work and arrest, 83-year-old David Zandstra is in police custody in Georgia, charged with the 1975 kidnapping and murder of 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington. On the morning of August 15th, 8-year-old Gretchen was supposed to arrive here to Trinity Church for a vacation Bible school. It's where David Zandstra was the pastor. She was last seen, though, along Lawrence Road. 2 months later, Gretchen's body was found 8 miles away in Ridley State Park. District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer.
So he only drove 8 miles away to dump her body. That's a lot like red wine. That's what I'm thinking what happened in Evansdale. The person most likely lives in Evansdale and drove 25 miles to dump the bodies at a site that they knew. Because that's not that far, right? To these sickos, it's enough. oh, this is far enough away from me. You know what I mean?
He got her in the car, drove her to a secure location, asked her to take off her clothes. She refused.
Now, this reminds me a lot of maybe Delphi. You know, we have one victim complying, take off your clothes. You know, okay, all right, just don't hurt me. Then you have another one that's like, no, I'm not complying. You know, and then the killer's like, what do you mean you're not complying? They don't know what to do. What do I do? You have to comply, right? Like, I'm a psychopath and I just kidnapped you. What do you mean you're not going to comply? Some people are just not going to do it. They're not going to do what you tell them to do because they're extremely strong. And that's not to say some others are weak. It just means that some people are going to refuse those types of demands. And I have a feeling that maybe Abby, with the Delphi case, refused that demand. Because if we learn anything from this case, this young girl refused. She said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing that shit. That's disgusting. I trusted you. You piece of shit. I'm not doing it. Okay, well, now that you know who I am and what I am, I can't let you live. You're going to tell my secret.
Then beat her to death with his hands.
Mike Mathis and Joanna Falcone Sullivan published a book, Marple's Gretchen Harrington Tragedy.
The Reverend Zandstra took our calls. He answered questions about that day.
The former pastor.
Did you hear that? And we're going to go more into these authors. I have another article here that we're going to read, but these authors doing their research spoke to this son of a bitch. They literally talked to him, talking to the killer.
Pastor was one of the first to report the young girl missing.
There's a lot of, relief and disbelief that it's actually happening.
Things turned in this case when another alleged childhood sexual abuse victim came forward in January 2023. When investigators pressed Zandstra, they say he finally confessed.
He was relieved, I would say. It was like a weight was lifted off his shoulders.
We're going to try him, we're going to convict him, and he's going to die in jail.
Nice. I love that. I love this. Let's watch that again.
They say he finally confessed.
He was relieved, I would say. It was like a weight was lifted off his shoulders.
We're going to try him, we're going to convict him, and he's going to die in jail.
And unfortunately, her dad passed away not that many years ago and couldn't experience the capture of this motherfucker. But nonetheless, they got him.
Investigators say it was soon after the murder of Gretchen that Zandstra and his family moved as he could become a pastor at other places around the country. We're talking about Georgia,
78.
Florida. They're concerned, though, that there may be more victims out there because that Zandstra family moves so often. And they're asking anyone who may be a victim to come forward.
Yeah, I think this case is just getting started as well. There was a story that we're going to read here of another girl who somebody tried to kidnap her. There was 2 attempted abductions around that time, and they all reported. Now when they recall it, they're like, yeah, it was most likely that person. So this guy was trying to kidnap other kids. So if he moved away, who knows what other killings he's responsible for, or kidnappings and sexual assaults. I mean, this guy went his entire life without being caught. I just don't understand how that happens.
This story rocked her Marple Township community back in the 1970s.
Well, now 50 years later, detectives say they know who is responsible. A man that her family knew very well, a fellow pastor and the father of her best friend. Chief investigative reporter Joe Holden is live in media
Thanks,
with the
Cover.
breaking
Hey,
developments.
Jamie.
Joe, this case is just unreal.
Yeah, Jessica and Natasha, reading through the court documents, this is something that people in Marple Township will tell you all the way back in 1975 transformed that township, they say, forever.
Yeah, 1975.
The disappearance and murder of 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington of Marple shocked the entire Delaware Valley. It was 1975, and Joanne Namavong was a teenager who helped search for little Gretchen.
They had us spread out our arms
True
and
crime and
just
other
at a
stuff. I'm sure
distance
you'll
that
be
we
a
would
member
cover
soon enough.
we would have a row of people just arm to arm searching, so we didn't miss one spot.
Investigators late Monday announced the arrest of an 83-year-old former reverend of the church.
Cindy says it's just awful and sick. I just don't know if that's enough to describe it. I mean, what the hell could this guy be going through? It was a friend of his. It was a daughter of his friend. And he's supposed to be like a protector of children. And I don't want to make this bashing on the church, but I mean, come on. I mean, to be a Christian, you don't have to be part of any church. You know what I mean? Don't feel like you got to be part of some congregation where these guys are going to do weird shit to your kids to be close to God. I just don't want you to believe that because it's not true.
Identified as David Zandstra of Marietta, Georgia. Unbelievably, Zandstra even presided at the 8-year-old's funeral, according to sources. Police painted a picture of an evil man who they say lured Gretchen to his car, attempted to molest her, and then beat her to death when she refused to give in to his demands. Her remains were located months later.
I want that part to echo. Refused to give in to his demands. I want the echo of the hero in all of this to bounce around. Gretchen Harrington refused. She said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do because you're sick. You're a fraud. You're not who you say you are to be, and I'm not going to do it. So congratulations to her parents and congratulations to her for being a strong person. I commend her 100%.
Later at Ridley Creek State Park.
He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew and who trusted him, and then he acted as if he was their family friend, not only during her burial and the period after that, but for years.
So I think this goes out to the conspiracy folks, right? This is kind of one for them because that's who I am. At the core of things, I'm a conspiracy theorist who has learned how important facts are, but at the heart of things, that's what it is. It's all conspiracy. Now look at this conspiracy. This person has been part of this case from the very beginning, an integral part. He was the person who was expecting her. He was one of the early people who reported her missing. And then he just hid in plain sight. Now, think about all the unsolved murders out there. Why are they unsolved? Well, maybe it's the father's best friend. Maybe it's a female that nobody's even suspecting. Maybe it's the pastor at the local church. Nobody. It could be the unexpected, is all I'm saying. You don't want to be accusing all these people, but when you have a crime against a child, I think maybe at some point you might need to take some collateral damage with that. What is acceptable as far as accusations? I mean, nobody wanted to accuse this guy, but look at the damage. I mean, the father's dead. He doesn't get to experience justice that's being served right now. I just don't know if there's any way to pay that debt back. Right? So sometimes I feel like being maybe a conspiracy nut, yeah, you might take some flack and you might be responsible for some victim shaming. But at the end of the day, what is really important? And I'm talking about unsolved crimes. I'm not talking like the Delphi case where they have a suspect in custody and you're still trying to accuse other people. So don't try to make it something that it's not. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
State police revived the investigation in 2017. Troopers initially had another suspect, but refocused the case on.
And did you hear that? They had another suspect. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that it's the guy responsible.
David Zandstra, a reverend they say moved around quite a bit and is now under investigation for other potential instances of the sexual abuse of children. They say Zandstra confessed in an interview about the murder. Marple Township Police Chief Brandon Graves said the case shattered the idea of Marple being a safe place.
Changed everything for the kids, for the parents, for the families.
Yeah, and that's another thing. One piece of shit monster can change everything for a small town. Think about Delphi. Think about all those people that let their kids go to that trail. And there's nothing wrong with that. Man, I would have been at that trail every day. Yeah, I might have been doing some shenanigans and stuff I shouldn't have been doing as a kid, but that was me. That doesn't mean that that's everybody. I was a bad kid. But still, it was all in good fun, you know what I mean? It takes one monster to ruin it.
For everybody, because nobody could do anything anymore in the innocence that they used to do it.
Yeah, and the defendant in this, David Zandstra, now fighting extradition, even after all of this time, back to Pennsylvania.
There you go, Purdue. Justifiable castration and public hanging in town square. Yeah, and I don't understand why that's such a debate. I mean, yeah, if you're hurting kids and things like that, I don't know why that's up for debate. I don't want to sound like a savage, cold-hearted son of a bitch, but I mean, if you're hurting people, elderly, women, and children, I mean, why shouldn't you hang, guys? I mean, why are we talking? Well, I guess there's the whole, well, you got to prove it, and I agree with that too. You know, the court of law stuff. So that's not lost on me.
When he does arrive here, prosecutors say in about 2 to 3 months, he will be facing a count of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and other related charges. The family of Gretchen Harrington
Good to see you,
releasing a
Sparky.
statement thanking.
Hey, Sparky, we decided to make it a public stream. I was doing my research on the case and gathering content for the members only, and I just felt this needed to be public. There's not a lot being said about it. I think it might be being overshadowed by the Rex Heuermann stuff, which seems normal. You know, that's an extremely sought after killer. This one I really didn't know much about. I heard about the Gilgo case years ago. This one, though, seems to be being overshadowed by that news. And I think there's a lot of helpful information here about other suspects. And I think this case is providing some insight to other cases.
State Police for their dedication to the case over all of these years. We're live in media. This is Joe Holden, CBS News, Philadelphia.
But the big story on Action News tonight is the arrest announced today in the decades-old murder of an 8-year-old girl in Delaware County.
David Zandstra is, ladies and gentlemen, a monster. He is every parent's worst nightmare.
And tonight, David Zandstra, now 83 years old, is finally behind bars. Prosecutors say he abducted and brutally killed Gretchen Harrington back in 1975.
Right back, Radar.
As that little girl
Right
walked
back
to
at
the
you.
Bible camp where he was a pastor. Now, 48 years later, investigators say he's admitted to the crime. They say he lied to cover up for decades. Action News reporter Maggie Kent live in media tonight. Maggie, how did we get here all these years later?
Well, Brian, investigators say it was a new break in the case. Another alleged victim came forward to say she was sexually abused as a child at the hands of David Zandstra.
Oh yeah, she was a fighter. She knew exactly what was going on and she wasn't having any part of it. She was killed for it because he knew that she was strong enough to say something. There was no going back. Once he took her, he knew how strong she was. She could not. She would have ruined his life, put him in prison.
Now, when troopers went down to Georgia to make contact, they say he gave himself up.
This man is evil. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew and who trusted him, and then he acted as if he was their family friend.
After 48 years of dogged police work and arrest, 83-year-old David Zandstra is in police custody in Georgia, charged with the 1975 kidnapping and murder of 8-year-old Gretchen
100%,
Harrington.
Anita.
On the morning of August 15th, 8-year-old Gretchen was
did.
supposed to arrive here to Trinity Church for Vacation Bible School. It's where David Zandstra was the pastor. She was last seen, though, along Lawrence Road. 2 months later, Gretchen's body was found 8 miles away in Ridley State Park. District Attorney Jack.
What's crazy is Red Wine, when he killed his son, that's exactly the distance he went. It was like 7.5 miles. Like, oh, 7 miles is enough. You know, it's like they just don't care. They don't care. It's trash. It's not a human being. And I think that's the fascination here with true crime. How do you become a human where you're kind of not a human? You're just kind of hiding amongst us. You know, to me, that's the scariest thing. And you don't know if it's your brother, your father, your mom, your sister, your cousin. It could be man, woman. It could be a child.
Stolzheimer.
He got her in the car, drove her to a secure location, asked her to take off her clothes. She refused. He then beat her to death with his hands.
Mike Mathis and Joanna Falcone Sullivan published a book, Marple's Gretchen Harrington Tragedy.
Yeah, let's take a look at that book. That's kind of why I wanted to replay that. This is a recorded article, I believe. Yeah. Let's take a look here. So that's them. And they wrote this book here about the murders. And I think they had a lot to do with bringing some pressure onto law enforcement. So
Authors of book on 1975 unsolved Marple murder have book signing on December 3rd. Marple Township natives Mike Mathis and Joanna Sullivan will do an author meet and greet and book signing of the kidnapping
he's just
and
been
murder of
arrested
Gretchen Harrington.
recently, within the week.
Suburban Philadelphia's Loss of Innocence, Saturday, December 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. at Barnes & Noble in the Lawrence Park Shopping Center, Broomall.
You got it, Jamie.
The co-authors wrote the book about the 1975 unsolved murder of Gretchen Harrington and how the tragic crime affected their lives. Friday, August 16, 1975 began as a typical summer day in the suburbs. Young children played with their friends.
Great point, Judy. Conspiracy until it isn't, right? Once it's proven, it's like, okay, it's not like it's a conspiracy anymore. It's the truth. Great point.
Adults prepared for work or planned for their vacation at the Jersey Shore. That all changed in the hours before noon, when Gretchen Harrington, the 8-year-old daughter of a Presbyterian minister and his wife, was kidnapped while walking to a vacation Bible school less than a quarter mile from her house. Her body was found by a jogger in a state park nearly 2 months later. The crime forever changed the lives of the children who were about Gretchen's age and their parents, many of whom chose to live in Marple Township because they considered it a safe refuge from the crime-ridden streets of Philadelphia. Mathis and Sullivan examined the kidnapping and murder and the nearly 5-decade investigation through rare access to police files in what is still considered an open investigation. They also discuss how the...
Yep, 100%, Anna. He's right in the middle of the process of being extradited from Georgia to Pennsylvania. Yep, I did read that just before the show, actually.
Crime affected Gretchen's contemporaries and shaped their adulthoods. The authors were only 10 years old when Gretchen disappeared, but they never forgot about it. The Mathis family moved to Marple in 1966 and the Sullivans came to Marple in 1975, shortly before the crime. When Gretchen Harrington was
Thank you,
kidnapped
Rescue.
and murdered, life changed for us, our friends, our parents, and all the adults in the community, Mathis remembers.
So one man came into a community and completely changed their entire lifestyle. I mean, I just don't think that that's fair. I don't. Think about how much the world is being affected by just a small amount of people, right? Small amount of scumbags that are changing the whole course of our lives.
We were no longer allowed to walk to friends' houses or the swim club by ourselves. Our parents and our friends' parents watched over us more closely. The crime made local children more wary of strangers, which made them more cautious as they parented their own children as they grew up. They were also perplexed that the crime has not been solved nearly 5 decades after it happened. In the spring of 2021,
Anna says USA Today reported that other children were groped, including his daughter. Yep, and they're gonna talk about that here in a minute.
Mathis and Sullivan began writing the book that had been in their discussions for about 10 years. The authors said that they wrote the book as a tribute to Gretchen and to all of those whose childhoods were forever changed and whose adulthoods were shaped by her murder. The authors met when they were in 7th grade at Paxson Hollow Junior High School. Mathis went to Loomis Elementary School and Sullivan went to Russell Elementary School. They are both 1983 graduates of Marple Newtown High School. For more information about the book or to purchase,
The rest of the article just kind of goes on to explain their book signing and things that they had during that time. That was in 2022 before the conviction here. Jamie, if you're referring to Harrington, yes. Gretchen, I mean, what a hero. You know, to just be that strong of a person to say, yeah, I trusted you. Yeah, I got in your car. I believed you were a good person. Like, what are you doing? I'm not doing these gross things that you're telling me to do. At the ages of 8, that's a special kind of person. Yeah, and he did. He acted extremely quick. Very smart, as if he didn't do it, as if this wasn't his first time. And I don't think that it was. Yep, he's a pig. And that's an insult to pigs, really. Yeah, they really didn't have the DNA technology that they do today. But they are testing his DNA.
Haunting a Delaware County community for almost 5 decades. Now officials say they have finally made an arrest in a cold case murder that dates back to 1975. A former pastor is now behind bars accused of killing an 8-year-old girl who was a parishioner at his church. The suspect now in his 80s. Action News reporter Catherine Scott explains how investigators uncovered the major break in this case. Catherine?
John, the little girl was last seen walking to this church behind me where she was in summer Bible camp, but she never made it that day. And now there's a crack in the case nearly 50 years later.
He is every parent's worst nightmare. This is a man who is a remorseless child predator who acted as if he was a friend, a neighbor, and a man of God. And he killed this poor little girl.
83-year-old David Zandstra, a former reverend now in police custody, arrested in Marietta, Georgia, where he now lives, for the 1975 kidnapping and murder of 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington. His confession came last week, solving a nearly 50-year-old cold case. In the 70s, Zandstra was a reverend at Trinity Christian Reformed Church in Broomall, where Harrington attended Bible camp in the summer of 75. Harrington's own father was minister at Broomall Reformed Presbyterian nearby. Zandstra was a family friend. August 15th, 1975, around 9:20 in the morning, little Gretchen was abducted near her home on Lawrence Road on her way to that camp. Her skeletal remains were found 2 months later in Ridley Creek State Park. The catalyst to the confession, an alleged victim of child sexual abuse at the hands of Zandstra, who recently spoke up. State police immediately traveled to Georgia, where he confessed to killing her. Authorities say he beat Gretchen to death with his bare hands. Mike Mathis and Joanna Falcone Sullivan published a book, Marple's Gretchen Harrington Tragedy.
We had hoped that the book would prompt a look at this case again, that maybe they would find someone. We didn't expect that person to still be alive. I hope this brings them some measure of, closure. Obviously it doesn't bring her back. Her father passed away a couple years ago. I wish, he was here to see this.
Gretchen's family released a statement saying
Yeah, that part was really sad when she said that. That I hope her father would have had an opportunity to see that. That made me really, it's one thing for him to die in prison, but it's another thing for the father of the victim to die without having that justice. I don't know how to explain that. I just don't think there's any way to describe that kind of pain. It's your life. It's gone. As a father, what's more important to you than your children? Thank you, Radar. Dad probably feels vigilant justice almost seems just in this case. So awful. Yeah, there's only certain cases that make me feel violent. And yeah, I definitely don't wish anything good to happen to this gentleman. I know that's awful to say, but I'm not going to lie about how I feel. Honestly, if I was sitting in the room with him, I'd probably rip his fucking face off just so I can see him standing there with just a skull. Honestly, that's how angry I am when I see his picture. And I know that's horrible to say, but that's how I feel. I just want to rip it right off. Especially after hearing that he beat her to death.
No one knew who killed this little girl in Pennsylvania, but now police say they found her killer, and it's a former pastor who's been living in Marietta for years. That's 83-year-old David Zandstra. He's now charged with killing 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington in 1975.
This man is evil. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew.
Joe. Yeah, Joey, that's what I'm talking about. He says, my God, he beat her to death. A grown man. And think about it. He was a young man at the time. Give me I wouldn't need 5 minutes. Just give me 60 seconds with this dude. I'm pretty sure I could pop his head right off. I'm pretty sure I might have to twist it a couple times. But yeah, it's coming right off. I don't give a fuck.
And who trusted him. And then he acted as if he was their family friend, not only during her burial and the period after that, but for years. And he then moved on as a reverend, both to Texas and I believe in Georgia.
So according to authorities, Zandstra at...
Yeah, that's awful, Sparky. Yeah, even in the family, you just can't trust anybody. We got to learn something, right? From all of these cases that we're covering, we got to learn something. That it's always from the person that you just don't expect. And our kids are just not safe. And I don't care if you got sons or daughters. They're both at risk. And it's unfortunate. But that's the world we're living in. And we're in denial of it. We wake up and we want to be positive and we want to have a great life. But there's some people that wake up tormented and they want to take it out on you and your children. I can't explain it. If you don't want to listen to the stories about good and evil, then you'll never get it. If you don't want to listen about God and the devil, you'll never understand these battles that are going on. And it's definitely not my job to explain it.
Admitted to offering this little girl a ride from Bible camp, taking her to a secluded spot, performing sexual acts in front of her, and then beating her to death with his fist. But for decades, investigators say he denied ever seeing her the day she was kidnapped. And what broke this case wide open.
Joey says, I say 10 minutes because I don't want to make it quick. Okay, I like that. But, and it's at the same time, it's like, at what point does vengeance become evil? At what point does hurting this person make you no different? And that's the struggle we have. And I don't have the answer to that. All I can say is I'm just human. You hurt my family. You better believe I'm putting it all at risk. I don't give a fuck who you guys are. So take that as a warning. You put my family at risk. I'm not going to sit back. Like, you're going to see a proactive person. You might come home and I'm going to be sitting in your living room if you ever threaten my children or my family. So just consider this your only warning.
Was an interview earlier this year with someone close to Zandstra's family. She described a 1975 diary entry that pointed to his sexual misconduct with children.
And listen carefully, because I believe this is what led to his arrest. There was a journal entry from long ago that was recently brought back up, and it grabbed the attention of investigators, which I believe led to his arrest. They interviewed him, and then he admitted to it. Yeah, breaking the cycles is very important because it can be passed down. That's the thing, Judy. They don't. They try to hurt other people. Hey, Jessica. You got my back. Yeah, he's going to die in prison. And like some of the commenters mentioned, they probably won't let him live very long. Let's see here. I got some article. Oh, here's the chapel. This is what it looked like when she was heading during her day. That's where she was walking to. And it was just 2 blocks up the street. Yeah, and that's it, Anna. That's it. That's the only reason. Is to stop vigilantes. Right? You're 100%. It's to stop vigilante justice. The court's like, we'll take care of it. I promise we'll provide justice. Might even include a hanging at the end. Just give us a chance. But I don't give a shit. If it happens in my family, there is no court. You're done. And I don't care what happens to me. Boston says people that are violent, evil freaks don't deserve prison. They get ramen noodles, stale bread, bologna, and a library gym. That's why I say it's up to parents. I know it sucks. But sometimes you got to get in there, get your hands dirty. If you know for a fact somebody's hurt your child, yeah, I'll face a lifetime in prison. I don't care. But you're gonna hurt. Yeah, but GP, honestly, these psychopaths, there's no changing their mind. You know, you can murder every person convicted of murder, and it's just not going to stop. They can't control themselves. Their ego tells them that no matter what, you could make a death penalty guaranteed, and they still in their mind think that they're going to get away with it. It's just an egotistical problem. I think Satanism is at the heart of all of it, whether you guys want to believe me or not. I'm not a Bible thumper. As much as I strive to be a real Christian, I'm not. You know, that takes real work. It's not a term you can just throw around. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe that a lot of these crimes have a lot to do with Satanism. You can hide that fact all you want, but it's the truth. The Happy Face Killer, when he wrote one of his letters, he highlighted an address that was 666, you know, to police. He felt the need to highlight that. Now, why? You know, this is a battle against principalities, good and evil. You guys can deny that all you want, but it is the truth. It's a fact. True crime. That's the only reason? Jeez. Yeah, you got it, Anthony. Not sure if you guys have been keeping up with this case or not. And we are running out of time. I pulled a couple articles. Let me see which one is most important. We'll go with this one. This was from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it had a lot of information on who exactly is David Zandstra. All right, who is David Zandstra? Zandstra became an ordained minister in New Jersey in 1960s, and later moved to Chester to begin a new congregation. In the early 1970s, he began working at Trinity Church Chapel, Christian Reformed Church in Broomall, Delaware County, where he led youth summer workshops for teen girls and assisted with Bible school programs that Gretchen later attended, according to news reports from the time. In the late 1970s, following Gretchen's death, Zandstra was living in Texas, where he worked at another church, according to property records. Zandstra and his wife later moved on to a congregation in California. He retired in the 2000s in Marietta, Georgia, where he lives. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate that. It's a nice super sticker from you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Cindy Lean, Radar. Thank you. And Judy B. You guys rock. What happened to Gretchen Harrington? Gretchen went missing at 9:30 a.m. on August 15th. She had last been seen going to Trinity Church Chapel's Bible school program about 2 blocks from her house. The Inquirer reported in 1975, due to the program structure, students in Trinity were taken to the nearby Reformed Presbyterian Church, where Gretchen's father, Harold, was the pastor for the latter part of the day. When Gretchen did not arrive at Reformed, her father became concerned. At about 11 a.m., Zandstra contacted police and reported the girl missing, court documents say. So her own killer reported her missing. Are you guys hearing this? Are you guys paying attention to this? Her own killer called the police to report that she was missing. Despite massive search parties looking for Gretchen throughout Marple Township and neighboring communities, authorities were able to find her. Police also distributed thousands of leaflets with her photo and staffed a 24-hour hotline that generated hundreds of ultimately fruitless calls. One detective even consulted a psychic. The Inquirer reported in 1984, about 2 months after her disappearance, on October 14th of 1975, a jogger found Gretchen's skeletal remains in a wooded area of Ridley Creek State Park in Edmond Township, several miles from her home. Her clothing was folded neatly in a pile near her body, and her underwear had been hung like a flag from a tree branch, as if to call attention to the place. What the fuck? Gretchen's body showed evidence of blunt force trauma to the skull. An autopsy later determined she had died from cranial-cerebral injuries. How did Zandstra become a suspect? Police began reinvestigating Gretchen's case in 2017, but it wasn't immediately clear what sparked a fresh interest in the investigation. Police targeted Zandstra as a suspect in January when investigators spoke with an unidentified witness who had been friends with Zandstra's daughter the year Gretchen disappeared, a criminal complaint says. The witness said that during a sleepover at Zandra's home when she was a girl about a week before Gretchen went missing, Zandstra molested her, the complaint said. The witness ultimately told Zandra's daughter what happened, and the girl told her that Zandstra does that sometimes. So the poor girl was like, "Yeah, he does that from time to time." What the? According to the complaint, the witness also told police that one of her classmates had almost been kidnapped twice, and wrote in her diary in 1975 that she believes Zandstra murdered Gretchen. On July 17, Pennsylvania State Police Captain Andrew J. Martin and Trooper Eugene Trey traveled to Georgia to speak with Zandstra. Initially, court documents say Zandstra denied seeing Gretchen the day she disappeared. But when confronted with the witness sexual assault allegation, Zandstra admitted to killing Gretchen, authorities say. It was probably like an avalanche, right? An avalanche just coming down. Like, yeah, I did it. So hopefully, if he did anything else, he'll talk about it. You know, if there's any other crimes, maybe he's willing to go ahead and talk about it. 100%, Judy. Joey says, Sleuth, I've been studying serial murder for years and they are broken. Yeah, I agree. They are not human. They're doing their best to kind of fit in. Anymore, it has nothing to do with religion. They are wired wrong. Once they should be studied, then destroyed. I don't know. I think these killers have a proclivity for Satanism. It's like they know that there's a dark force. You know, their life has been given to a dark energy. And, you know, most of us, we wake up and we pray. Thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you, Jesus. Please protect my family. You know, allow me to handle, you know, the troubles that the day faces. In God's name, I pray, right? For them, it's like, no, I know that I'm born to an evil. I know it. I know that I'm not good. So they know what evil is. They know what it is. So they pray to it. That's their God. I mean, you can deny it all you want, but most of these killers, if you notice, a lot of it has to do with Satanism. Son of Sam, boom, all of it was Satanism. The happy face killer, Satanism. You know, when you look at all of these killings and a lot of these murderers, a lot of them were satanic. It's just, I didn't make it that way. But the truth is, for all you satanic worshipers out there, the truth is that's where you're headed. You're headed to a path of negativity. And what's the most negative thing? Murder. Murder of a child. Mutilating a child. Abusing a child. So that's what Satanism is. It's disrespecting the good in the world, right? How do I disrespect all of the good things in the world? That's how you do it, by committing murder, CSAM, all these horrible things that we fear in life are happening by people who worship Satan. Now, whether you believe in God or Satan or whatever, that really doesn't matter. They believe in it. Yeah, he's definitely a sadist. It's a good word. Ordained on the internet. Yeah, I don't think he was a minister. He was an actual leader of a church. You know, he wasn't somebody that could just legally marry his parents like Kagan Klein. This was a dude that actually had a flock, you know. And I think we're going to see a lot more victims that come forward. Thank God for that journal entry, you know. And these people were convinced that it was meaningless. You know, it's just a strange thought. It really makes you second guess, you know. You really got to look at everybody. And I know that's tough, but it's just true. Anybody that's close to these victims, we really got to take a close look. And these people should be willing to come forward and even 10 years down the line provide any information. People like PB, when it comes to the Delphi murders, anybody that found the bodies, anybody that had any strange occurrences around the time of those murders, I mean, this is a perfect example. Those people need to be more closely looked at again and again and again. You know, think about it. If this guy was looked at multiple times and questioned just for being close to them, knowing that, hey, we know you're innocent, dude, but we really gotta, we really gotta figure out what you were doing that day. It's not because we suspect you, it's just because we want to get, we want to eliminate you. They just don't do those types of things. Because remember, it's a paid job to be a police investigator. You're on the clock, You're not doing this out of the goodness of your heart. You're already working fucked up hours, Now, do you have goodness in your heart as an investigator? I'm sure most of them do. That's not why they're doing it. It's a job. Yeah, Radar. And it's really strange to see his name. It's just there in those in 1975 in the newspaper article. There he is, his name. Yet nobody suspected him ever, It just makes me feel like a fool, and I had nothing to do with it because I know it would have fooled me too. Thank you, Pam. Thanks for your nice comment. I don't know if he is fighting. I read an article where it was just a matter of time and that he wasn't fighting it, but I could be wrong. I've only spent the day and a half, probably a total of 2 days kind of looking into it. But unfortunately, we are running out of time, guys. Here it says, is Zandstra accused in any other cases? Following his arrest, authorities collected a DNA sample from Zandstra, which will be compared with DNA collected in other open cases around the country. The Delaware County District's Attorney Office said Monday he is not facing any other charges and did not confess to any additional crimes. Stahlsteimer has encouraged the public to send any tips. So if you know anything about this guy or anything about what we've talked about today, they're still looking for information. All right. They didn't provide a number or anything like that. So I do apologize. But we will hang out another 5 minutes in the chat if you guys have anything to add. I wish I had more time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the sickest part about these killers is the way they want to relive it, the way they want to go near the crime scene, the way they want to touch anything owned by their victims. These people really are, they're different. They're not wired like you and I. When it comes time to break a friendship, when it comes time to break a business partnership, when it comes time to break a marriage or something like that, for these psychopaths, murder is an option. When they have a problem, and you and I, we have a problem, we're like, oh, we'll do this, this, and that. Never do we say, oh, we'll just kill the motherfucker. But for a psychopath, that's what they say. That's one of the things that they put on the table. "Oh, okay, well, we can get a divorce. We can break this partnership. I just don't want to be friends with this person anymore. Or I can just completely murder them and bury them." Right? To a psychopath, it's a legitimate option. It's not off the table. Anna says, meanwhile, BTK was a Boy Scout camp leader and he snuck out of camp to do one of his crimes. Yeah. I don't know how to explain this. Can we just go through life not trusting anybody? I mean, I really don't think we can nowadays. Don't want to become a statistic. But I do want to thank everybody for participating today who showed up for the live stream. If you're catching the replay, drop a comment. Let me know if you found any new information on this character, Zandstra. Thank you, man. Hey, Joey, I really appreciate your compliment. It means a lot. Your positive words, especially with the crap that I've been dealing with lately. I just don't want to argue. I just want to talk with you guys. I don't want to bicker. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Judy. That's true, Anna. It's taking some time. It's taking some time. The horse's ace feels like the Richard Allen arrest has opened the floodgates on new unsolved murder arrest. I agree. I feel like it's putting a spotlight on lost tips. You know, maybe it shouldn't be something that's held off. Maybe you should constantly be reviewing the tips that were in play. Maybe it's not something you go back and look at. Maybe you tell yourself, maybe we didn't approach these tips properly. Let's go ahead and look at them. Even if you have to assign a team, a rookie team. Yeah, and I don't think that that's what happened in the case. You know, they say, "Oh, yeah, we went back and looked at tips." No. I believe that we'll find out that they found something during that Wabash search and it pulled the tip from the pile, whatever information was on whatever they found. But still, that doesn't change the fact that they should be looking at old tips constantly. Yeah, it's the fact that we don't know true crime and other stuff. We don't know. That's why we look at true crime. We don't understand. How could you do this? How could you come forward and ruin all these families? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So we have an interest in human behavior. We have an interest in psychology, and we also have an interest in just pure mystery. And then we have a proclivity for problem solving, right? You know, lots of problems in our lives that seem to stump most people. We're able to just be like, oh, well, why don't you do this? You know, very resourceful people, I think, are into true crime, at least in my case. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jessica. You know, you rock. Kelly, good to see you. But that's all the time we have, guys. I covered everything that I wanted to. We might do a follow up on this case. I'm going to keep my eye on it. There wasn't a whole lot online, but I'm glad that we were able to cover it in its entirety, at least all the stuff that I was able to gather. I'm sorry, Sparky. Yeah. There's the moral of the story. Beware of monsters. Keep your kids always under your supervision. Yeah, thank you, Solar Chef. I think we're going to learn a lot more about this case. I mean, this really opened my eyes. I mean, you know, we always joke about POIs and sleuthing and accusing certain people in other cases, and I still agree with that. But I mean, how do you overlook somebody like this? I mean, the most trusted person in this case family friend. I don't think they would have suspected him in a million years. Something really scary about that. Just knowing that the person right in front of you is responsible for the murder of your child, and you don't know it, and they're supporting you, and they're helping with the procession and all of that. There's just something really unforgivable about that thought. It's just really scary. Makes it hard to trust people. And I think that's another thing that's evil. The fact that we can't trust each other as brothers and neighbors, it's a really tough thing to handle. All right, guys, that's all the time I have. Hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Please consider becoming a member. We try to stay active, and I'm pretty sure I'll see you guys in the morning. I have some things lined up for you. It may not be Delphi specific, but we will meet tomorrow, guys. I want to give another quick shout out to Cindy Lean, who is always supporting my channel financially, keeping the ball rolling. I appreciate you. Same with Radar. And thank you so much, Judy B, going above and beyond with that large super sticker. Thank you so much, guys. Replay crew or anybody who participated today, if you have any follow-ups or any links to this case, please post them in the comments. And I'm sure we're going to hear more about this, and we will do a follow-up. So I appreciate everybody who tuned in. And on that note, I got to get out of here. Take care, guys, and be safe.